Hi, thank you so much for joining today. So, Alexi, how did you get into crypto markets and RegTech? Could you tell us a little
Hi.
bit about it?
Sure. Well, we started, the idea started about 2013, started kind of having a shape, because I have a background in banking, in the banks and the capital markets and the payment system. So I'm kind of touched all the different segments of the financial system. And I saw all the problems, from 2008 crisis to 2013, the Cyprus crisis, and the slow settlement of the traditional payment systems, and the need of merchants to have extra capital because they simply don't have enough funds to finance their businesses. And then the blockchain came about, and there was like a click. So basically, we can connect this legacy payment system, legacy financial service system, and the new technology to facilitate faster payment. So that's how we started working on it. And the first project was actually digitization of gold. Was back in end of 2014, because we wanted to test how it would be possible to put physical gold bar in the vault and digitize it and create 1,000 tokens on the blockchain and allow people to trade the gold without actually physically possessing it. But that kind of didn't work, although we had a good traction, but it was hard to scale. That's why we switched to more broader scope in terms of digitizing currencies, which now is called stablecoin. At that time, there wasn't even called a stablecoin. So except of Tether, there was pretty much nothing.
So you started off digitizing gold, and were there any other precious metals or commodities?
Only gold, and specifically gold bullion. So we dealt only with the gold bullion because that's the standard demand from the gold investor. Challenge was though that the gold and traditional commodity investors and crypto investors belong to two different camps. They don't interact with each other. To tell the Bitcoin guys to buy gold, not possible. To tell the gold guys to buy a Bitcoin, not possible. So it's not at least at that time, it was not quite correlated. Right. Now I'm not sure. I don't know, because we're focusing on stablecoin business and the cross-border transactions and that kind of thing.
So can you share 5 ways that you see RegTech or regulatory technology can help stabilize the crypto markets?
Well, for the record, again, we are not in the RegTech space. I really have just a little bit of connection to this while we deal with, because we work closely with our partner bank compliance department. We also work with different departments from the central banks to work in, and those banks are in Myanmar and Thailand, because we're based in Southeast Asia. Our primary business is between Thailand and Myanmar to facilitate cross-border transactions using blockchain technology payments. On the RegTech, I would say, well, education is probably the most important aspect in dealing with the RegTech, the regulators, because basically when two parties discuss certain things, in most cases where in the meetings that I've been present, I feel like we don't have complete understanding of what we're talking about. And if both parties are not on the same page, it's really hard to achieve anything. So another problem I would see that from the regulatory point of view, they have to imagine a lot of things. So they need to assume, they have to, before making a decision, they have to assume how it's going to be. However, this assumption, until proven real interaction in the users in some tests, is just an assumption. The regulators cannot make a decision that would affect thousands of businesses and potentially even economy based on assumption without relying on all data. To get this data, the government, the regulators must allow what's now called a sandbox, but in a larger scale. You just say, okay, just company you have, and that's what actually I like what Singapore is doing in this regard. You can enroll in the sandbox. You don't happen to need a license. They just say, look, get in the sandbox, you register, run your business, prove the model. If you have 1,000 users or 10,000 users, and when you will prove your model, then we talk about the licensing and the regulation. That make sense. Not all countries have that.
Right.
So that's what my take on the RegTech.
So in this market, how can crypto firms maintain a competitive edge?
Sorry?
Crypto firms, how can they maintain a competitive edge?
Crypto friends?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in my opinion, again, I believe the regulation should start when customer business touches national currency, because the job of the regulators is to regulate the national currency flow. If we're talking about cryptocurrency, if the person or business deals directly with the cryptocurrencies without touching the fiat, I don't think that's actually within the regulatory space. Okay, so, but for the moment that if you sell your Bitcoin for US dollars, yes, then you should be the KYC, it should be like tax liability probably calculated in this case. So it should be some sort of like a definition or like a border between what's regulated and what kind of should be let go, in my opinion. But again, we're still too early to discuss. The market is still small.
But given that there are a lot of players in the market, in the crypto market, how can they have a competitive advantage over the others?
Well, look, when you talk about players, most of them are traders. Really, we see basically the only thriving business in cryptocurrency space is trading. That's why all those blockchain projects are kind of looking for the projects saying, look, I mean, you can have a perfect, really brilliant technology blockchain, and I know a few. I will not name names, but they're great technology, really. But they have no project. They have no adoption. It's like having a beautiful car, a Ferrari, but no roads to drive. So when talking about competition, again, this time it's different businesses. Like I said, the first is trading that's kind of working on the cryptocurrency space. But if you look at on another side, trade finance, lending, currency exchange, equity market, debt market, you name it. It's trillions and trillions of dollars of market in the legacy financial service market. While in the cryptocurrency, we're talking about 130 billion last time I checked, the total market capitalization. We can't compare those things. So my take would be just to develop the project, try to do something beyond the trading. Right. Like we do, our focus is financial inclusion, because I see that the blockchain can really power unbanked, underbanked people around the world to get them access to financial services, to get them line of credit, to get them credit history, to get whatever access to trading something. That's what the real use case, not establishing OTC baskins in Singapore or Hong Kong.
Can you tell what could be the best practices on setting up internal controls for such firms?
Internal controls for firms.
Say if it's a crypto exchange or a crypto trading firm, or even someone who is into creating blockchain technology for managing certain types of records. What type of internal controls should one take into consideration?
Well, mostly, this is a security aspect, and this is more in the jurisdiction of chief technology officer and chief compliance and security officers. Mostly cold storages are popular. Also, there right now the trend, which I like, is the institutional custody services. So basically, if we're talking about corporate or businesses that deal with crypto, if they're not sure or their system is not up to date, or they have a feeling like of possible security breach, they could delegate their crypto assets to a licensed, regulated custodian.
Okay.
That internally, there's to be honest, I'm not the person to respond on this, because I'm a business guy. I'm not a security
Yeah.
person. But in general, the more like I'm kind of a fan of the hardware thing. So all the private keys, if you're using like Ledger app or Trezor, much better than anything else in my opinion. So I would suggest any businesses to
No,
look at
that's
this
a
area.
very good tip, I think. So, shifting gears a bit on your entrepreneurship and yourself, how did you keep going when things went? I mean, there's not always times that everything works out, and I'm sure that things went down south. What kept you going, and how did you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, that's been this has been hard. Uh, yeah, every day we have our own challenges. Always something may not work, and what you expect to work actually works. What you never expect to work actually does. So basically, it's this internal energy that must. If we're talking about like startup entrepreneurship thing, yeah, it's hard. Basically, like I said, it's you have to have this inner belief or faith in something that you do and see the end picture. So I kind of envision how this should look. And that makes me going because now I know what we want to have in the end. And now it's just the way to find the right crew, right driver, and right vehicle to get there.
Okay. And just to wrap it up, what are the top 3 conferences that you would be attending this year?
Good question. Not on the top of my head. Oh, well, I'm going to actually next week in Hong Kong on IFX Expo. I was there last time 3 years ago. It's usually a very good conference because, as you can see, we don't usually go. I don't attend blockchain conferences much. I mostly see if we can get connection into like building network in the banking, payment, FX conferences, even the regulatory as well. Like last month, I was in Abu Dhabi on the Arab FinTech Symposium. So IFX in Hong Kong, and maybe I'll catch a few in States where I'll be in March. But right now, not on my schedule. I'm not actually avid conference goer.
Right. So I just wanted to ask one last question. What is your favorite life lesson quote?
Yes, it's really, I go by what the Winston Churchill said, that success is ability to go from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. That was first time I read that quote, I said, well, this is it. This is my thing. So I really love this quote, and I like everyone to follow this as well.
And how does it resonate with your life? What what really struck about what Winston Churchill said about it?
Because basically, yeah, you get hit, you get up, and you keep going. So it's like the poker players or traders, high like frequency traders. You see, I work with those people, and you should see like the person can win $1 million or lose $1 million. His face will not change. You'll
Right.
see zero emotion. It doesn't matter. It's just a process. And that's what, so if you have this internal strength, internal, this thing that keeps you going, then failures, or let's say tactical failures, don't matter. In fact, there are no tactical failures at all. It's just, we're just learning the way how not to do it. So I never say like, oh, we screwed up, it didn't work. No, yes, it didn't work, but now we know how not to do it. So it's actually a learning curve. So for
That's
the
amazing. That's an
entrepreneur,
amazing mindset.
yeah,
Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's been fantastic
yeah.
speaking.
Thank you so much for having me, and looking forward for more talk.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Ever have.